The purpose of this video is to demonstrate for you the Gellman Amnesia effect. What that is, Gellman Amnesia, is it comes from a physicist who would read in a newspaper something about his area of expertise, which was physics, of course. And he would remark to people that this was absolutely false, incorrect, that they don't know what they are talking about. And yet, while reading the rest of the paper, we, and likely he, assume that the so-called experts know and are correct because they are presented as such, framed as an expert. Now, right here, I'm going to tear apart Peter Schiff, who many people believe is an expert because, once again, he's framed as such, where he's stating that gold has superior monetary properties to Bitcoin. And we are going to experience the Gellman Amnesia effect together because you are out there who might not know as much as I do are going to just nod in agreement to a well-presented case by him without knowing the counterpoint. And that's what I plan to give you. So here we go.
You, on the other hand, you're a real crypto skeptic. We already got that in your last remarks. But can you explain to me why? Why is crypto not something that we as free marketeers should be pretty happy about?
Communication and technology that we have today, it's very easy to verify somebody else's note. And especially if you want to use blockchain or the internet, the original banknotes were redeemable in gold. Well, who's to say that banks or other institutions can't issue a cryptocurrency that's redeemable in gold? They could circulate as money even better than paper notes did. So yeah, I would love to get the government out of money. I would love to have competition for money. If some people want to try to use Bitcoin,
as do I,
have at it. I think Bitcoin is lousy money because it's very volatile and very expensive and very slow. So if you
only on layer 1, you have layer 2, which is Lightning and Liquid and other forms of circulating Bitcoin that is much faster and much, much, much cheaper. So he's only partially correct. You settle that on the base layer after you have numerous transactions. So it becomes like a bar tab that you eventually settle up, and then you move that to layer 1 and pay a fee one time versus thousands of different fees can go into that one notation on the layer 1 network.
Actually wanted to, transact business in Bitcoin, it would be very difficult. Whereas if you tokenize gold and put it on a blockchain, it's quick and cheap. And in fact, you don't even need a blockchain because you can centralize the custodian who can handle.
That is the point, that you do not want to have a centralized custodian because they're going to rehypothecate the gold. They are going to start issuing gold bonds, gold coins for the internet that are going to be circulating when the gold isn't there. Right now, we don't even know whether or not the amount that Fort Knox has stated over the years of ounces of gold are still within that government protected area for the US taxpayer that we supposedly own. We do not want centralization. Bitcoin is completely decentralized and you own your Bitcoin. It is protected cryptographically in wallets that are impossible right now for anybody to hack.
The books and records, but it can all be done instantaneously at a low cost.
You're just proposing a different form of cryptocurrency. That's all.
The other reason that Bitcoin doesn't work as money is because it can never be a store of value because it doesn't have any value that it can store.
That's false. Just sorry to keep interrupting. With Bitcoin, it's like gold. You have to have proof of work. You have to mine the gold. And Bitcoin was designed in a similar way where you have to expend electricity, massive amounts today, in order to mine one Bitcoin. And the difficulty of doing so increases as you have more and more people that are mining the remaining Bitcoins. Furthermore, Bitcoin, there is a fixed and limited amount of 21 million, whereas gold, if you could potentially mine an asteroid or Jeff Bezos could and bring tons and tons of gold back to Earth, or you could find a way to produce it via alchemy, the dream of people throughout the ages. So you never know what the supply of gold is actually going to be, whereas you do Bitcoin.
My definition, or the best definition of money, is the most liquid commodity. So before money can be money, it has to be a commodity. Bitcoin skipped the commodity.
No, Bitcoin is a commodity. It absolutely is. It does not have a central issuer. You have to work to produce it. The only difference is that there's, unlike wheat, unlike gold, unlike silver, unlike cheese, there's a fixed and limited supply of it. So you know the supply.
Trying to go right to the money. Gold is valuable because it's a metal that we need and use. And the reason it's money is because I don't have to use my gold today, because
it can be used in electronics and in jewelry, and that does give it some value. That is true. But it only became money because it has the scarce assets that people want of their currency, of their money, in terms of the fact that it can't be counterfeit, that it lasts. If you want to use an apple as money, how long is that commodity going to last for? It's just going to disintegrate. So he's right about that, but Bitcoin is even better than gold.
Gold doesn't rot or decay
Neither
or
does
tarnish.
Bitcoin.
Gold, I can bury it in the ground and dig it up in 1,000 years, and it's exactly the same. I
Same
can
as
leave it on the
Bitcoin.
bottom of the ocean for 1,000 years. None of the elements are going to harm it. And so I can
Same as
store that
Bitcoin.
value for eternity. And so that makes it ideal money because I don't have to spend it. We can hold on to it and it can be used.
And that's what Bitcoin has too. You don't have to spend it. You can hold on to it. It's a store of wealth, and it is a commodity. It's been labeled by the Securities Exchange Commission as a commodity.
Used in the future. But Bitcoin doesn't have any of the qualities that make gold a valuable commodity.
That's just not true. I just outlined it.
It has some of the qualities that make gold better money than other commodities: portability, divisibility, durability.
But it's much more divisible than gold. Can you imagine trying to divide up gold? You can do that with Bitcoin like that. And transportability, Bitcoin is zapped around the globe in milliseconds. You want to centralize control where gold will inevitably be rehypothecated. That you can't do with Bitcoin because you can always check the balance as to what somebody actually has, so they can't lie about it like they can at Fort Knox.
All these things. And that's what Bitcoin copied. But it doesn't have the most important part, that is the value of the metal. Why gold is valuable.
No, that's
the
false.
Bitcoin community likes to pretend that gold has no value at all, that it's just worthless, that it's just, it's just some kind.
It does have value in jewelry and electronics. It's just that 80% of it is monetary value. It's the monetization properties of gold.
A mythical thing that we just believe in it. But that's Bitcoin. They're describing Bitcoin, which is all based on confidence. Gold is based on the value of the metal. It doesn't matter whether I want to have confidence in it or not. The reality is it's a great metal that does all sorts of things that other metals can't. And people have been using it for thousands and thousands of years, not only as money, but as a metal. But yeah, I think if we had a pure free market, Bitcoin would lose. One of the biggest problems now is the government prevents competition. I think the main reason that we don't have a bunch of gold-backed cryptocurrencies circulating right now is because of the laws, the KYC, AML, all that crap. The government makes it so expensive. The government doesn't want you using alternatives to their fiat monopoly.
This is true.
Which is kind of ironic that they are,
Not
now
the gold.
embracing Bitcoin. But again, that's all because the politicians who are embracing it have been bought and paid for by the industry. And talk about,
That's not completely true. All Bitcoiners want is a fair shot at competition. And Elizabeth Warren and her banking buddies wanted to suppress Bitcoin and put the boot on the neck of all crypto companies as well as Bitcoin during the Biden administration. They were openly hostile to it, and that is part of the reason that they lost the election, because many people believe that crypto is changing the world for the better. It is much easier to get crypto, aka Bitcoin, into people's hands than it is gold. And how are you going to protect the gold? When I was in Myanmar, people did store their wealth in gold, but this was 2012, before virtually anybody knew about Bitcoin, including myself. But that's how they stored their wealth. It is far easier to protect your wealth with Bitcoin. People have escaped from Afghanistan with Bitcoin and been able to start a new life where they go.
Ultimate rent seeking, and that's what's going on here. But yeah, I think that if the government stayed neutral, if there was no Bitcoin reserve, if the government was not trying to, stack the deck in favor of crypto now, I just think that it would fail. I think people would lose their money. The Ponzi would collapse, or the pyramid, and that would be that. But yeah, I don't want the government to say that people can't use Bitcoin if they want, or any of these shit coins, whatever, fine. But what I don't like is the fraud. I mean, I'm against big government, but I'm not for anarchy. So I do think there should be laws. Most of them should be on the local level, not on the federal level. But I think it should be a crime to defraud people, to get people to do something that if you told them the truth, they wouldn't do it. And I think
Okay,
that's
I'm
what's
with you.
happening all in crypto, where people are being
Not
misled,
with Bitcoin, though.
and people play into their ignorance and greed to try to pump and dump these coins on them. And
That does happen. It just doesn't have to be Bitcoin, which does not have an issuer, which is why the Securities Exchange Commission labeled it a commodity. It's very different if you manufacture Peter coin and tell everybody to buy it, and you and all your insiders cash out at their expense. That's very different. Bitcoin's been going on for 15 years, and it is freely distributed, and anybody can participate. There are no rules other than the network rules that apply equally to everybody.
and I don't think it, I think there should be some consequences to that. I think there should be, the court should be able to address this. But to the extent that, people are just willingly gambling and greedy, and they're just, caveat emptor, I mean, you lose your money, learn a lesson from that and try not to be as foolish the next time.
Well, there you have Gellman Amnesia. Who do you think has the better case? Is it me, or is it Peter Schiff with gold? Or do you think that, as I stated, that Bitcoin is infinitely divisible, is infinitely transportable, it's much easier to protect, it has superior properties to gold, it is impossible to destroy a Bitcoin. You can lose a Bitcoin forever, but it can never be fully destroyed. And gold, yes, you can also lose it at the bottom of the sea, as Peter said, where Spanish galleons have lost tons of treasure over the millennia. And Bitcoin, yes, some of it has been lost, but it is nevertheless a commodity, and it is superior in terms of the fact that you can store it. It's infinitely dense. You can transport it anywhere, and you can set the keys up geographically so that if even somebody came with a $5 wrench attack, and said, give me your Bitcoin, they're not going to get it, because you can't even necessarily get it easily. So it's much easier to protect as well. That's where you distribute the keys, not to get into that complicated mess. But Peter is absolutely wrong. What they're going to do is they're going to rehypothecate gold. Whenever you have a central store where you hold the wealth, then people just say, hey, I can lend out. It's just too tempting to issue gold-backed currency on gold that you don't have, and it's impossible to audit. Just look at what's going on in Fort Knox, where they're trying to even bar the President of the United States from going there. I don't know whether or not that's going to happen, but it's going to be very curious whether or not we actually have the gold that the U.S. government says we do at Fort Knox. Gold's monetary value is largely what makes up its price, not for electronics and jewelry, although it does have some value for that. Peter's absolutely correct there. It's not that gold is absolutely worthless. It's better that we have this metal. But Bitcoin, in terms of being a store of value, is absolutely superior. So just remember the fact that there is the Gellman Amnesia effect. And when people present things as a so-called expert, you have to be judicious with your time in terms of what you truly investigate and get to know, because we only have so much time in life. But it just is, I hope that this is an illustration, because so many people believe Peter Schiff because he's in the frame of an expert all the time. And so I wanted you to hear the rebuttal and just give you this example of this phenomenon of human nature. Guys, if you like this video, please thumb it up and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and share the video. And God bless everybody out there. Peace.